can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here. I'm founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Atari, many more, how they overcome big challenges in life and business. Today we have Ethan Anderson. He's co-founder of MyTime, where you can book appointments for anything online, haircuts, oil changes, even dental exams, you name it. They have over 2 million businesses to choose from. Previously, he founded Redbeacon, where they raised $7.4 million, grew the team to over 20 people before they were acquired by Home Depot. We have a huge slacker on our hands. Ethan went from Duke Economics to Harvard MBA. He worked at McKinsey, dotcom, Starbucks, Clorox, Google, and then founded 2 companies, one with a successful exit. Ethan, thanks for joining me.
Wow, that was a great intro. Thanks.
You should use this for your about page on MyTime.
You hit everything. You missed the time that I made the basketball team, though, in high school.
First, there's a really crazy story where you fell off a glacier that I wanted to talk about at the beginning. Then
non sequitur. Okay, so I used to be an adventurer, and I was backpacking through New Zealand, and they have glaciers in the South Island of New Zealand. And I picked up a brochure that said, glacier climbing expedition, no experience required, completely safe. I was like, oh, great, I have no experience.
Here, sign here. So
yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like, I don't even think they have these kind of laws where, they're responsible for anything. And so here we are climbing over the glacier. There's not even an established route. We do have an ice axe and crampons and, helmet, and there's a guide. But he basically has...
Did you feel safe at the time when you're doing this? Or
no, definitely not.
You didn't? Okay.
I know I didn't feel safe because they actually got a photo of the crevice I fell through thinking, God, this is crazy. We're going to climb this crevice. And so I took a picture of it before I fell into it. So I clearly did not feel safe.
I better get a picture before
Yeah, it was almost like a prequel. Imagine that, a crevice looks like this, right?
Right. Yeah.
And they had us spread our legs across the crevice.
Oh my
like
God,
this.
Are you serious?
And then and the only thing that's really holding you is you have an ice axe that you dug into the side wall, and you've got your feet, which are crampons with spikes, dug into the sides. And then you take a step, and you're kind of moving through the crevice, but below you is just, a lot of height. You look down, and
it's just
the
empty space.
Empty space. You're inside of the crevice. And remember, I'd never done this before. I'm not like an expert.
Right.
So sure enough, right foot slipped out of the foothold. That I'd carved for myself. I don't know why that happened, but it just fell out. Or maybe it wasn't dug in enough. But I had the ice axe dug in. So as I fell, I tried to hold on to it, but all that did was rip the shoulder out of the socket.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so the shoulder is wedged under the armpit. I go plummeting to the bottom of the crevice.
Oh.
And I land, and, it was melted ice water because it was summertime. And so there was just a pool of melted ice water at the bottom. So I fall into the pool. And by the way,
you fell into the crevice.
I fell to the bottom of the crevice, and
with a separated shoulder.
The shoulder is completely dislocated. First, I couldn't move. I don't know, probably for 5 or 6 seconds, maybe longer. I was just paralyzed, and so I was really scared that I'd broken my back or something. But then movement came back, and so it was just like the shock of the landing or something.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And so I stand up, sopping wet and cold, and in a lot of pain. In many places, but especially the shoulder. And there I am looking up like, oh, I can't get out of here, And so there was a guide. He had a radio.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Amazingly, the helicopter got there very quickly. I would say probably 10 minutes.
Really?
But I'm very calm. You don't know how you're going to react in a situation like this. There was only one thought that kept going through my head like a broken record over and over and over again. You know what it is?
No.
The thought was, I can't believe this is happening to me. Because it feels like the kind of thing that happens to other people, and you're watching it on TV, and here I am, and it's like, this is actually happening to me. It's so weird. I couldn't stop thinking that. But they dropped a rope down, and I was able to tie it and with my good arm and kind of hold on to it, and they lifted me out of it, and then reached down to pull me up over it, and then loaded me onto the helicopter. And actually, I'll just keep telling the story because it gets funnier.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So they gave me a shot for the pain, so I was kind of knocked out, and then got me out of my wet clothes, and they flew me about 40 minutes or so to the closest hospital, which is, obviously pretty far away because I was on a glacier. And so we land on the helipad, and they take me in and, did some x-rays, and they decided they were going to have to give me general anesthesia to pull the shoulder back in because it had been out so long.
Yeah.
It had been out so long
really
that
painful.
it was frozen. It was just all the muscles had just gone rigid, and so they just were not going to be able to pull it in while I was awake.
Oh man.
Actually, I think I'm okay with. I don't think I would have wanted to be up for that. But so I'm semi-unconscious. They only needed me to be out for like a couple of minutes, so they just gave me a little bit of anesthesia, I guess. But I guess I wasn't totally unconscious because I suddenly came alive and tried to bite the doctor's arm off. Like some primal instinct where they were trying to hold me down so I couldn't bite the doctor.
So you were partially conscious at that time?
Yeah, I don't remember any of this. They told me this later.
Hopefully you don't do that if you drink too much.
Yeah, I know. So be careful, don't back in without telling me. And then they called my parents and left a voicemail back in the U.S. and they said, strong New Zealand accent, some rural town. This is a niece of New Zealand. Your son was in a terrible glacier accident. He was admitted to the hospital to die. And they said today, but it sounded like to die.
Oh no!
And so basically, she communicated that I was already dead to my parents. So it was.
That's crazy. So right. I think that's a great story, and I wanted you to tell it. I didn't. Obviously, it's the first time. I'm glad you didn't tell it to me beforehand. That's amazing. I find it interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs do the adventures. It's like a thrill-seeking thing. Have you done other thrill-seeking adventures? And do you find it helps you business-wise?
I mean, I'm 40 years old now, so I think my adventuring has kind of slowed down a little bit. But sure, when I was younger, I mean, everything, skiing, snowmobiling, 30-day backpacking trips through the wilderness. I loved all that kind of stuff. Sure. Driving fast. I don't know if that counts as an adventure, but racing. I mean, all that stuff was a lot of fun.
That's crazy. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
My time in the startup life consumes, I think, my desire for the thrill seeking. While it may not be physical, it's certainly mentally and emotionally just as exciting. And every day is different and challenging.
Thrill seeking is being sued unexpectedly by someone in Australia for a trademark that you didn't violate. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course not that part. Right. It's interesting because I think somebody who becomes an entrepreneur has a real comfort with ambiguity, with unexpectedness, with change. And you're not going to start a business and everything is going to go like you planned. In fact, that probably happened on the second day. Yeah. And so people who are looking for comfort and security and they're conservative don't tend to go into entrepreneurship. Yeah. And they probably also don't tend to do extreme sports. You know what I mean?
So Ethan, what did you want to do? What did you want to do when you grew up, when you were young?
Oh, when I was young? I think I dreamed of politics.
You did?
And, kind of.
Because I saw you had political science, I think, at Duke or something.
Yeah, I was a public policy and economics double major at Duke. I was really passionate about politics, worked in government, worked with the majority leader of Congress, worked in a lobbying firm, to see different sides of the government, worked for the mayor of Los Angeles. So I had definitely had an interest in it. I think that, like many people, I think I just got disillusioned with it and felt like I wouldn't really be able to make a difference or an impact, kind of the way the system is set up. I mean, if you look at the people who are running, you realize that we just don't get the best of America running for office anymore. You really just don't. And I just think because...
Obviously, we could see that with some of the stuff going on now.
Without kind of naming names, but you can obviously see that the candidates could probably be better. And it's frustrating. But the good people don't want to subject themselves to it because they know they will encounter too much resistance with the way the system is set up.
Yeah. So was your dad an entrepreneur when you were growing up?
Yeah. So he's a vitamin company. He has a vitamin.
Oh, really?
Standard process.
Are you serious? Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait. What does he do?
So he's the distributor for a certain part of the country. And what that means is he develops that territory. He's got exclusive selling rights in that part of the United States.
So you do that from when you were young too?
From
That's cutting edge. At that time, that was probably cutting edge stuff.
I mean, imagine I'm 40 years old and he was doing it before I was born. So he's been doing it for more than 40 years.
Wow,
He
that's
started
amazing.
out as a, feet on the street salesperson, and all the way until he got his own distributorship, and he's been doing, phenomenally well with it.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, for people who don't know Standard Process, it's like one of the best vitamin nutritional companies you can ask for. I've
That's
taken
right.
their stuff, SP Complete, and a bunch of their other supplements before.
Yeah, I used to work in his warehouse, picking and packing orders. So I definitely
Really?
grew up with it.
Yeah.
And my mom is a psychologist, so I never saw either parent going to work for somebody else, if that makes sense. They were never employees. They were all both in business for themselves.
Yeah.
So maybe that had an impact. I don't know.
So what did you learn from your dad growing up?
What did I learn from my dad?
Yeah.
So hard work, great product, great customer service, really true passion for what you're selling. I think that no one believes more in Standard Process than my father.
Yeah.
I know you think it's a great product, and it is, but I mean, you will not find someone who's a bigger supporter and fan of it than him.
Does he make you take all the supplements?
He certainly has. Yeah, he certainly has. I mean, it's funny. Like when we used to go on these vacations together, and it's like a whole suitcase was just Standard Process supplements that he was bringing for our personal use.
I love your dad. What's the
Yeah.
best advice he's given you, would you say?
The best advice, I think it's really find
Sounds
your
like you
own-
talk to him a lot. And
No,
you
I do.
guys
I mean,
have heart
I
to
think it's
heart.
really find your own way. He wasn't like, well, I'm very ambitious and I work very hard. He wasn't like one of these like Chinese tiger moms, stereotypes where he's like, I want you to go and study. I want you to go play piano. It was really like, you go find your own way. I'll be there to support you, but do the things that you want to do and do them really well.
Yeah.
And for me, like that was computers. I loved computers growing up. He got me an Apple IIc. Paid $200 a month for my crazy America Online usage, and he just kind of supported that and endured it and encouraged it. And so I think that really letting your kind of kids find the things they're passionate about and supporting them through those endeavors, probably like the Montessori method, if you will,
Right.
It might be better than kind of forcing them to do things they're not interested in.
Yeah. Now I'm surprised you didn't do something in the health field based off of what you saw your dad do.
Yeah, it just it wasn't what I gravitated to.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I think I always like to do things at scale. And you know how we talked about I had this interest in politics. One of the things that appealed to me about politics was you do things at scale. You make a public policy that affects millions of people.
Right.
Things that affect one person at a time were never as interesting to me.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Talk about quick returns for a second.
Oh, okay, sure. That's a
Yeah.
pass. Well, so I graduated.
Because again, like I would think, I'll let you tell the story, but with MyTime, you have success with the Redbeacon, MyTime, and I would think whatever happened then, I don't know the full story, that would have kind of been a little scary time. So.
Well, it was a different era.
Yeah.
So, I graduated college in 1998. It was the first dotcom boom. And there were a lot of new business models being explored using the internet for the first time. One of the things that was really popular was they called them e-tailers. And they're basically online retailers who are pure play. They're only online. And a lot of the classic brick and mortar stores, they hadn't really come online yet, like Barnes & Noble or PetSmart or whatever. They were still just physical stores. There was Amazon for sure. But a lot, pets.com, eToys, eStyle, there were just so many, and there was like every vertical had their
That was
own
the very beginning, right?
very beginning.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big pain points that they were experiencing is how horrible it was to return products. You basically ship something back through UPS, and 4 weeks later you'd get a refund because it was sitting in a warehouse somewhere and they weren't good at handling what they call reverse logistics.
Yeah.
And then they'd refund you, but they wouldn't know what to do with the product. They couldn't put it back on and to resell it.
Right.
They didn't have really good liquidation system set up. So I thought, what if we built an integrated business, partner with all of the pack and ship centers like Staples, mailboxes, etc., which is now the UPS store, and we let customers drop their return off at those locations. The return shipment was just handled for them, and then we dealt with the return for the e-tailer. We'd basically inspect it, make sure it complied with the return policy. We'd put it back in inventory if it wasn't opened. We'd send it to a liquidator if it was, or the manufacturer if it was broken. We would just handle everything for them. It was almost like returns as a service, making the consumer experience better and having better returns for the e-tailer.
Why'd you even think of this? This seems like so random.
I was a McKinsey consultant for 2 years. I was doing a lot of internet strategy, working with a lot of online retail firms.
Yeah.
Certainly was an early adopter in e-commerce, and I experienced the problem myself of how frustrating it was to have to return something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I see a problem and I want to solve it. That's
Right.
kind of what
So then what happened?
Well, it was interesting. So this is again a different age. This is 1998. Oh, I'm sorry, this is 2000.
This is right
2000.
around the bubble, yeah.
This is right before the bubble started. Back then you wrote big business plans. So I bought this software called Business Plan Pro by Palo Alto Software. And I found a partner who graduated from UCLA's business school, and the two of us worked together night and day to write this great plan, financial models, charts, everything was in there. It was like the waterfall method business planning. And
we're coming full circle. We're going backwards with the waterfall method. Yeah.
Totally. People don't do that anymore, by the way. Today, when you pitch a VC, you have like a 10 or 12 page PowerPoint. People don't write these business plans anymore. But the plan was so good that it got picked up as the sample plan for the Business Plan Pro software. That was the sample plan.
Really?
That they would box with the software of you should build this.
Wow.
It's a great plan. But great plans don't translate into great businesses necessarily. We're raising money for it, partnering with Staples, getting all those connections, and then all of a sudden the dot-com crash happened. It was March of 2000. All the funding dried up. A lot of our own the companies that were going to be our customers, they were suddenly can't invest in anything else, laying people off, shutting their doors down eventually. It was really a dark time. I heard San Francisco's population drop 15% or something. So it was a dark time. And, I was kind of waiting for this to pass. It wasn't really passing. So I was like, there's an opportunity to go work at a local e-commerce firm. It was called buy.com, B-U-Y.
Yeah.
The second biggest online retailer after Amazon. It was doing about $800 million a year in sales.
Wow.
It's pretty sizable.
Yeah, when you say local, it seems like small, but that's a huge company.
No,
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's local because you have all the big companies
I was
around
living
you.
in Los Angeles. So
Right,
yeah. You're right. No, it was actually pretty big. Probably the biggest seller
huge.
of outlets and other things at that time. And so I had an opportunity to be the director of strategy at buy.com. And I said, I don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing for me, but while I wait for the storm to pass.
So did you know at this time, I'm going to go out and start my own company eventually? And you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to, but I the dot-com, bust, as they called it, actually was pretty long-lasting. It wasn't just a quick blip. It was actually a major downturn for a long time.
Yeah.
Affected the technology industry for years. So I didn't, pursue quick returns again. Today, I don't know if the business is necessary because now you just print out a return label on your printer and you drop it off at the local mailbox, UPS store or whatever, and it just instant return. So the system, I feel like now the companies are much better at it than they were back then.
Yeah. So what'd you learn at buy.com?
Buy.com was very sophisticated with pricing. That was really where they differentiated. They built a very complex pricing system that I managed. There was over 1 million SKUs. So actually, let me actually tell you what Buy.com really was.
Yeah.
It's a front end for different distributors that they would partner with. So they would go and they'd say, hey, there's this company called Ingram Micro. They have a gigantic set of warehouses with a huge set of SKUs, and they have wholesale pricing. Buy.com would carry their inventory, put up a nice, really merchandised, beautiful website, and set the pricing for the retail price and manage the customer relationship, and then get an order and just transmit that to Ingram Micro, whoever the distributor was.
Like drop shipping-ish?
Like drop shipping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Buy.com didn't carry inventory. Different than Amazon, which actually does carry inventory.
Yeah.
Amazon buys stuff in bulk from manufacturers and then ships it out of their own warehouse. Buy.com did not. So it's more of a virtual low asset model.
Yeah.
So I managed a system about pricing, and one of the things I learned is you want to have the perception of low price, and so you take all of the hot new items, call it the top 100 sellers, and you price them below market, maybe even below cost a little bit. So everyone's like, whoa, Buy.com is so cheap. The new Palm Pilot 3 just came out. They're cheaper than anybody out there. I'm always going to shop at Buy.com. What they don't realize, the other 1 million items are actually very expensive.
I'm sure I get sucked into that.
The accessories, And so it's about upselling. It's about cross-selling.
It's a perception.
It's about the perception. And so the system that we built managed the revenue and the margins, the profit margins.
Wow.
And it did that by having high velocity SKUs that generated lots of revenue and low velocity SKUs that had lots of margin.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, coming up with a combination that got you both. It's very advanced.
Yeah.
Very complex.
So at what point, I can go on and on about all these. I mean, because you went from there to Starbucks, to Clorox, to Google. Just to quickly with Google, what's one of your favorite memories or, stories from Google?
Google is really the greatest company I've worked for. I really love the experience. I learned so much about product development, product management. I don't think I could have basically been an entrepreneur without that Google experience.
Yeah.
But, my greatest memory of Google is I came into Google and they were like, well, you've got like 3 different jobs you can do. You could do marketing, you could do product management, or you could do international product management, which is launching our products in other countries. So I was like, oh, cool. I've never gotten to do international business before. This international job sounds really fun. So I walk into it. So there's like one head of international. His name is Adam Freed. He had a big team, probably 50 people. I don't even think I really got to meet him for like 3 months. It's my boss. And then they're like, well, your first product is Google Video. It's a new product. We just launched it at the Consumer Electronics Show on stage with Larry Page, the founder of Google.
Wow. And
Robin Williams, on
no
stage.
No pressure, right?
Yeah, and they're like, okay, now we want you to go launch this in other countries. I was like, oh, great. Where should I launch it? Well, you got to figure that out. Oh, okay. Well,
what do you call it, China? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, they're like, how do you internationalize the product? Well, just go work. There was like no direction. There was no management. It was like, just go figure it out, decide what to do,
have to be an
and come back
entrepreneur.
when it's done.
Yeah.
And I mean, I loved it. I really don't think a lot of people would love that situation. They'd be like, this is crazy. But for me, it's like, I got really scrappy. I started running around the Google organization, getting people's help. There was a great team of internationalization engineers who had come from Netscape that I got to work with. Sat down with the existing Google Video team and learned about all the things that would need to be done. And it's complex. I mean, there's content, there's privacy policies, there's like translation of the interface. There's a whole bunch of things that have to be done. And I ran over to those other countries, but flew over and ran focus groups to learn about what those customers were really looking for and what existed today. So I had a lot to learn, and I just did it. And launched it in about 16 different countries and got to #1 market share really everywhere except for Japan, which YouTube was #1 in. And so really great experience, loved it, worked day and night on it. And then Google bought YouTube, and so it was all for nothing because it got consumed into YouTube. But still a wonderful experience.
That's amazing.
Just was so passionate about it. And I think because it let me be an entrepreneur within a bigger company.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think it's like that today. I think if you want that experience, you've got to go to an up-and-coming company. So some commonalities between Starbucks and Google when I worked there is both of them were in like the heyday of their growth. And I'm not saying that, there's not innovation taking place today. Google's obviously doing wonderful things with self-driving cars and drones and all kinds of things. But it's not the same company that like you can come in and they just say,
you don't get free reign.
Just figure it out.
Yeah,
you don't get free reign anymore. Now there's real management, there's real process. Things go pretty slow. They have a lot to protect, and they have to control their downside risk. And so it's not the same place. But if you want that experience, and I recommend it for anyone, because before you become an entrepreneur, I think it's good to sort of learn, on somebody else's dime, if you will, how to do certain things.
Right.
Go to the really fast growing company. Don't go to the really big mature one. Like don't go to GE. Don't go to Apple. Go to the ones that are like rocket ships.
Go to like MyTime.
Yeah, like MyTime, for instance. For hiring.
What are you hiring for these days?
Software engineers, user interface designers, enterprise sales reps to go after kind of big, larger chains and franchises. Actually, there's a lot of roles open right now because it's a fast company.
All right. I know someone that may have some software engineers for you. Yeah, so I'll make a note of that. So why'd you leave then? Obviously, you love Google. What made you decide to leave?
I had this experience where, I went to my 5-year Harvard Business School reunion in June of 2008, and it was probably May 31st actually. And so it was great to see everybody. I really love my classmates there. Have fantastic friendships that I developed, and everybody was doing incredible things. I mean, there was Sal Khan, who'd started Khan Academy, probably the greatest nonprofit learning site on the internet.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was, a guy named Chris Dixon who had started 2 startups and is now a partner at Andreessen Horowitz, a top VC firm in Silicon Valley. I mean, there was one after another, and they were just, everybody I spoke with was friend of mine was like, I've started the largest private equity fund in the Middle East. I mean, it was just like, God, you know, I'm doing great things.
You felt like
Google,
a slacker
but I'm just
going
like,
in or something?
boy, 5007. You know, I was like, I didn't want to come back to the next reunion and be like, I'm still just an employee somewhere. I want to be like, I've gone and accomplished this. I've done this great thing. And it kind of reawakened my kind of entrepreneurial leanings, which I'd had early on in life. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't, it's like every day became painful from that day on until I left.
Mm-hmm. We have too much to cover in like 4 minutes. But so Redbeacon, tell me about the sale and how you celebrated.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, I threw a party and invited all my friends and got lots of like food and drink. And, you know, I think it's more from, it's not like how I celebrated. It's more about the mentality shifting of becoming wealthy overnight. Yeah. You know, usually it's not quite like winning the lottery because you had to work your butt off for it. Whereas like winning the lottery is you got lucky. But it is in the same sense, like you know, at this point, you don't have any money. At this point you do. And like, you know, kind of mentally, like, what does this mean? Yeah. You know, like, I wasn't like born with a silver spoon in my mouth and lots of like big trust fund. It wasn't like that, right? And so I think that was sort of something that took like a year to get used to, of like repositioning your thought about that and what that means. But I think the more, you know, the really exciting moment, obviously the sale is great, but the most exciting moment in Redbeacon history is we won this thing called TechCrunch 50. And it nothing really exists like it anymore because it broke up actually after our year because the two founders of TechCrunch 50 got into a fight. But it was TechCrunch, which is the biggest technology blog, you know, in the world. Sure. And this guy, Jason Calacanis, who's a wonderful technologist and promoter and entrepreneur. And they'd come together to build this conference of launching the best startup in the world each year. They did once a year.
They do something similar now, don't they? With This Week in Startups or...
Well, so that's Jason's thing. Oh, okay. Jason does This Week in Startups. Yeah. He created something called the Launch Conference.
The Launch Conference, yes.
And then TechCrunch created something similar called TechCrunch Disrupt. But the truth is like you split the baby, and neither one of them has anywhere near the gravitas as TechCrunch 50 had when they were doing it together as one. Right. And so basically 1,000 startups applied to be in TechCrunch 50. And, you know, I looked at my co-founders and we discussed it and we thought, you know, boy, if we got into this, we're one of the top 50 startups because they choose 50. Hence TechCrunch 50. Right. You know, that is going to be game changing. We can go to VCs. We can say we were a TechCrunch 50 finalist. I mean, that is an amazing accomplishment. And we didn't know if we'd get in. In fact, we were so excited when we got selected to be one of the top 50. It was unbelievable. And so it's a 2-day event. You're presenting on stage.
Didn't past winners of this were like Mint or like, weren't there like some amazing past, right?
Oh, I mean, let me tell you, like, the past winners were Mint and Yammer. Yammer sold for, I think, $1.3 or $1.4 billion to Microsoft.
Right, right.
Companies that were in TechCrunch 50 but didn't win include Dropbox, ZocDoc. I mean, these are multi-dollar valuation companies today.
Yeah.
So it is really the best of the best. And there's 100,000 people who are watching it on the live stream and about 2,000 or 3,000 in the audience. Wow. And so we won. And we didn't just get selected. We actually won. And I will tell you, I didn't think we were going to win, not even until the very last second when we did win. They bring the last 5 finalists onto the stage, and they're like, number 5, so-and-so, number 4, so-and-so. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, it's down to 2. I'm like, I'm not making this up. I was thinking, God, it's so amazing that we were the second best startup. It didn't even occur to me we were going to win until we won. I didn't even let myself even go there. Oh, God. So when we won, it was really, it must be like winning an Academy Award, you know, for our industry. It was game changing. I knew at that exact moment how important that was going to be. Yeah. In fact, Home Depot, who ultimately acquired Redbeacon, they only found out about us because of TechCrunch 50. They heard about it too. And they're like, wow, a company in the home services space, you know, won this technology competition. You know, we got to watch this. This is big. And so the president of Home Depot had reached out and, you know, we'd had breakfast with him at least a year and a half before the acquisition. So they were really tracking it. Yeah. And so, yeah, that was a game changing moment.
That's amazing. So then you get, it's not a windfall of success and wealth from selling. So how long did you relax before starting MyTime?
Oh, it was like a matter of just days.
Days.
I went to the Galapagos Islands.
Just days.
There. Yeah, to celebrate, I went. We took just a mom and son trip to the Galapagos in the Ecuadorian rainforest.
Yeah.
And then I came back, and it was just me at that point. I didn't have a team or anything for my time, and I just sat there in my living room working on a business, product specs. Got a kind of contract developer to kind of build a prototype so I could raise some early money and hire some engineers, full time.
Yeah.
And I'd started on that almost immediately, and it was because I felt that the idea couldn't wait. It wasn't like I was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do right now? I want to go work some more. It wasn't that. It was that I had a burning idea.
You did.
I didn't ever have a better one. And I thought, the longer I wait to do this, the more time I give someone else to get there before me.
So the burning idea was this just burning inside you since at Redbeacon?
It was. I mean, I'd certainly been thinking a lot about it at Redbeacon. The idea of a site, a website, or a mobile app where people could come to find and book appointments and purchase the services felt to me as big as Amazon.com. Amazon's doing physical goods and digital goods. Well, I want to do local services, but the same concept. And that just felt like a very big idea. It was the era of Groupon, when we started
Right.
this.
I'm in Chicago. Yeah, Groupon was,
fastest
huge.
growing company in history. Got to $1 billion in revenue in no time. And you see how big local commerce can be.
I'm looking up. I have 30 questions for you, but we are, it looks like out of time here. So
It was a real
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. And this is awesome. Thank you for sharing all this expertise and knowledge. Where should we point people towards to check out? Obviously, mytime.com. Anywhere else that people should check out to find out more?
Well, if you're a business owner, we have kind of our business landing page at mytime.com/merchants,
Okay.
MERCHANTS.
Okay.
And that walks you through the product. It shows lots of screenshots, kind of shows you what we can do. And I really want to encourage all the small business owners, if you don't use MyTime, use something. Don't just put your head in the sand, because the world has changed, and I don't want you to be left behind in the way that all these small stores got wiped out by Walmarts and Targets and Home Depots of the world. You have to adopt with the times, and this will give you the ability to do so.
Yeah. Ethan, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.